Is in position. We will be set to go racing then. It is the Gerry Marshall Trophy, and it is go! Great noise as everybody surges away from the line. Lots of wheel spin. Demon start by Rick Wood in the blue and white Capri on the inside line. Mike Whittaker's bright red Capri on the inside as well. This in the mid-pack is the view from on board the Dolomite Sprint of Orlando Lindsay as they turn their way round Madrid for the first time. Nick Swift in the Mini gets all sideways, but he saves it. Great start by the BMW though. It is Nick Manassian in the lead out wide there. Number 17, the Fred Shepherd driven Camaro running a little bit wide, sorry, Mustang I should say, running a little bit wide. He gets away with that only just. So they've managed to get themselves safely around the first half of the lap, but a good start by Nicolas Manassian.
And this is where it's going to be really, really difficult as there's a car up in the background, David.
There is indeed. It's the Camaro of Tom Christensen and Jack Tetley. Tom Christensen starting, so the 9 times Le Mans winner is in strife already, but the BMW, dare one say, is getting away slightly.
It looks like he's just broken the toe, but we know there's going to be cars coming through. Tom Christensen's going to be wanting to recover from that. We know he's an absolute demon at coming through the pack at these races, though, isn't he?
Absolutely. And look at Mike Whittaker in number 8 Capri there, the ex-Gordon Spice car, having a go to get past Richard Mines. This is the one that he shares with Mike Jordan. Mike Whittaker, he can't find a way past, but those Capris making a glorious noise as they wail down to Woodcote. But a battle, if it develops for second place, will play into Nicolas Manassian's hands. And then in 4th place, look, you've got the first of the Rovers with James Wood at the wheel that he shares with Neil Yarney. It's been a car that's won here in the past, so down to the end of the lap. And actually at this section, look, the Capri's closing the gap down again.
And this section is so difficult to get past, as we can see another one of the Minis trying to make progress towards the back of the field there. It's so difficult, it ends up just being single file through this chicane, and it's not until you really start to open it up and get up towards Magic for the first time that we'll start to see some action forming.
Right, Mike Whittaker round the outside there, up into second place at the expense of Richard Mines, and James Wood in the Rover up on the inside line. There he is, looks sideways, the tail wags, they come up towards Ford Water, but the Rover, I think, has got the grunt, Tom. Yes, it has, so through goes James Wood. And also there, look, through on the inside line as well, absolutely charging, is Fred Shepherd.
You're absolutely right. Whittaker seems to be making fantastic progress already, up 3 places in the first lap, so he's had a fantastic first lap. We look back towards the Minis, Swift and Jordan, they seem to have made some good progress forwards. They seem to have taken 4 places forward, so there's definitely some shuffling going on.
And of course, in this, you don't have to worry about option tyres or success ballast. It's just as the car is. So now there, the Rover, James Wood starting. He's up into 3rd place. Richard Mines' Capri, though, is the one that's suddenly dropped a long way back, isn't it? It's lost 2nd, 3rd and 4th places, and he's falling away into the pack. Now Mike Whittaker goes after the leader there. Through, you see another place lost by Richard Mines. Nick Swift's Mini goes through. Look at the pack streaming by. Rover, Sirocco, Camaro, great variety, and it's 4 for the race lead now, Tom.
Absolutely, we're starting to see some action starting to pop up here. You would bet against you coming out in front of this one. Like you say, every car has its strength and weakness, but that BMW looks strong at the front of the field so far. He seems to have been sort of maintained that 9/10 to 1 second gap.
Yeah, again, it seems to lose out under braking for the chicane. Nicolas Manassian being careful, as there Fred Shepherd has a look up the inside. So the BOSS Mustang trying to gain ground, can't quite do it. They drift beautifully all the way around Madrid there. But James Wood in the Rover comes up to have a go at Mike Whittaker. This is just as the British Saloon Car Championship was in 1980, Capri versus Rover, and both of them get up against the BMW. Mike Whittaker takes over the race lead, and James Wood tries to get up on the inside line. The ex-Brian Yogi Muir Rover goes through, picks up 2nd position. So suddenly that BMW finds itself really struggling against the Capri and the Rover.
Absolutely right, and we look to be off on the outside there, under pressure maybe.
So that was James Wood. He just got 2nd place and just didn't seem to be able to get the car turned in. So off he goes, mows the lawn for the Duke of Richmond and Gordon, and should get back onto the circuit, one hopes. Or is that a problem? Because he's not showing much urgency to get back in the race.
He doesn't know. He looks to be staying out of trouble. But David, to pick up, have we looked at Mr. Jason Plato? He seems to be making some progress forwards, up to 5th place already. So would you discount Jason at getting a few more?
Well, let's see. In fairness, it's going to be JP in the 2nd stint. I think Craig Davies was meant to be the start driver in that car. Let's have a quick peer in and see that they've not gone back on that, changed the plan. But either way, that car is going nicely. Now, again, some teams do this in a different way. Do you put your owner in first, make sure he gets the mileage, and then hands over the car to the pro for the 2nd stint? Or do you put the gun for hire in first, send him out with the intention of building up a lead for the owner. Most of the owners are going first. Remember, 15 to 30 minutes is when that pit window opens, so the minimum you can do is 15 minutes within this race. But yeah, you're right, Tom. Certainly the Plato Davis Mustang is looking pretty good now, up into third place. Craig Davis, in fairness to him, is no slouch either in that car.
He's absolutely not. I'm going to be racing against him in the TT tomorrow as well, so I'm going to be keeping a close eye on him, see where he seems to be strong.
Right, pick your lines against him, absolutely. There going through is number 7. Now that is Jack Young in his father John's Camaro, sharing with Gordon Shedden, and that's a sorry sight. Hand out of the window, the Rover is heading for the pit lane.
That is such a shame after that strong first couple of laps that we saw.
So we had the car in trouble actually in qualifying. It stopped out on the circuit when Neil Yarney was at the wheel of it, and whatever the problem was, that has struck again. Right, how about this for a yank tank fight going on? You've got David Clarke versus Jack Tetley. These two currently arguing over, what, 5th and 6th places. I said Jack Tetley, I meant Jack Young. Jack Young on the inside line. Is he going to be able to find a way through? Not there, he's not. Now let's keep an eye to what's going on lower down the order. Headlights ablaze. There is Rick Wood in the Capri that he shares with Adam Morgan. And number 28 is the recovering Tom Christensen, 11th at the end of that lap. Nick Swift getting all cheeky in the mini there. Look as he gets up the inside of Gerry Michael's Escort. Right, over the timing line. Tom Christensen has a go at Richard Mines, but interesting the way that Ford has really fallen back. Richard Mines there, look, in the red and white Capri, in the leading group early on, but the pace just ebbed away.
He seems to be struggling, you're absolutely right, and would you ever bet against Tom Christensen coming forwards? He's made 3 places even on that last lap, so he's on the attack, and you wouldn't bet against it being another couple of corners before he makes this move.
You're right, especially with all the grunt that his Camaro has got. Now there, Jack Young is all over the back of David Clarke, and ahead of them is Nicolas Menassian, who had that lead early on. And again, after a couple of really good laps, his pace has dropped off. And it's not just you lose a position, you lose quite a few and a big chunk of time, because Nicolas Menassian is 5.5 seconds now drift of the race leader. Really obvious.
And once you get once you get out of that initial pack, it's very, very difficult to close the gap back up, because you fall out the rhythm, you fall out of that little bit of a slipstream, and you just fall out of all your braking parts, and you start to get onto a little bit of a downward spiral, so it's very difficult to get back into the rhythm as well.
So then the onus is on the second driver in the second stint. Now, as far as the lead is concerned, Mike Whittaker, with his very original ex-Gordon Spice Ford Capri, is being caught by Fred Shepherd for the second stint. Mike Jordan versus Andre Lotterer in those cars. That's going to be a fight to savour, isn't it?
Absolutely right, and that Shepherd car seems to be very, very strong. 2 purple sectors in the first two, and then with the fastest lap on the last lap by quite a chunk. So 9/10 different to the race lead. He's definitely going to be closing that down.
Absolutely right. So at the moment it seems that having lots of horsepower is the way to go, because you've got lots of these big V8 cars chipping their way forward. Now, of course, something else I suppose we need to factor in, especially in the context of the Camaros or the Mustangs, is 45-minute race, brakes come the end.
And tyres as well. It's although it's a very fast circuit, it's very, very hard on both brakes and tyres, and especially when you're up behind, when you're right behind traffic, everything's going to be getting hotter. Your engine's going to be getting hotter. Brakes are suddenly going to be becoming a factor towards the end of the race, and especially with these heavy cars, that's where they're going to start to struggle as the race goes through.
Good Capri battle here as well, as Richard Mines tries to fend off Rick Wood, who specialises in building engines for Capris. And this is about to be a lead change, is it not? Mike Whittaker comes under attack from Fred Shepherd, and the BOSS Mustang, it's an older car, but it's got a bigger engine, it's got lots of horses to unleash in a straight line. Through it goes, but Mike Whittaker will be very late on the brakes on the outside line. Can he stand his ground? Not quite. Tries to get the undercut towards the chicane. He still has a look. Great racing this between these two.
And did you see those brakes glowing orange into the last corner? So already, how long are we in? We're only we're at 20% race distance already, and brakes are already getting that hot. Now, I'd be a bit worried about that.
It's fine. They have a rest. 2-minute pit stop. It'll be fine. But even in a modern, never mind a period touring car, brakes can be an issue. Just ask Dan Camish from the BTCC of last season. Right, look back to Nick Menassian. How's he getting on? He's down in 5th place, and Tom Christensen is all over the back of him, recovering, sawing away at the wheel. Then goes from the outside to the inside. You see the car twitching as TK unleashes the power, charges through on the inside. But again, the heart, oh, that's not a good sign. Nick Swift's Mini in the pits already, and that's of course before the pit window. It is very rare that a Nick Swift-tuned car has a problem, but that does not look good, does it?
It doesn't, no, and there's a little bit of smoke around the front of that. You've worried that's probably going to be terminal, and even if they can get back out, they're going to be so far down the pack.
And Kerry Michael is also stranded. That's going to deprive Mark Blundell of a go. So all of a sudden, with what, just under 5 minutes of the pit window opening, two quick cars in strife. So Nick Swift and Andrew Jordan would have taken that over. Good battle going on here between Jack Young just being able to keep Tom Christensen at bay. It's something he can dine out on, won't it? Jack Young in his father's Chevrolet Camaro keeping the similar car of Tom Christensen at bay. The red and white one there you see in the hands of Tom Christensen. Pole position for the 1978 Spa 24 Hours. Now, Richard Longman versus Richard Longman here. The 1600cc Fiesta, number 41, which has got Karun Chandhok at the wheel of it, ahead of Malcolm Harrison in the Longman raced in time Metro. Students of the Fiesta will notice that's the American 1600cc car because it's got brown headlights, not the square ones, and it was a bit of a cry foul at the time because people said, well, you can't buy it in the UK, how can you race that in the British Saloon Car Championship? But it was on sale in the States. Now for the lead, perhaps not surprisingly, Tom, now that the grunt and go Mustang has hit the front, it has extended that margin to over 7/10 of a second.
It has, but we're starting to see lap times drop off already. We can see their fastest lap was a 1:28.9 on lap 5. We're only 2 laps later, we're into the mid-33s, so we're already starting to potentially notice a little bit of tyre degradation, and we also saw from those glowing brakes earlier on, they're already going to be starting to notice that.
So we have then the car there in the hands of Craig Davis turning his way through, and we're heading towards the pit stop window here at Goodwood within the Gerry Marshall Trophy, and those pit stops are going to be coming up when you rejoin us after the break. So the battle continues up front, and the 7/10 of a second margin set to extend. Now, Tom Ingram was talking a little while ago about the Craig Davis Jason Plato Mustang that's up into 3rd place, and that's becoming an increasingly dark horse, you could argue, because it is closing on the Mike Whittaker Capri. Here is the leader, Fred Shepherd, swinging out of the chicane, but the gap's coming down and down, 2nd to 3rd. Where else do we look? Well, everywhere there's a battle going on pretty much. More variety evinced by the Volkswagen Sirocco there, number 36, which is the car of Jim Morris and Tom Shepherd. Tony Lanfranchi, another national racing legend, drove that car in the championship in its time. But actually the Sirocco is staying with bigger engine cars quite well there.
He's doing very well, and just to jump forwards towards the front of the pack, do we mention Tom Christensen up to 4th place?
Good spot. Yeah, going nicely, so he's got himself ahead of David Clarke and ahead of Jack Young, and all of that means that Nicolas Manassion's pole-sitting BM is falling back in the pack. 8th is the father and son Blomqvist entry. Stig, who's been out in the rally stage just a few minutes ago, starting, and son Tom, Spa 24-hour winner and DTM hotshot of years past, he will take the car over. So there's a lot to shake out of this race. The order that we have now is by no means guaranteed to the very end. As there you see the Fabergé liveried Ford Capri. Stuart Graham carried the colours Imperial, but that's the car of Ludovic Lindsay and Charlie March. Right, Mike Whittaker was in 2nd place at the start of the lap. Is he still there? Have a look up the road. Yes, he is. He's losing ground relative to Fred Shepherd, but he's fending off the challenge of Craig Davis behind as the cars now come through Woodcote. But the pit window is going to be open in just over a lap's time, isn't it? So in many cases, the owner, I would expect, slower driver, will come in early, get the gun for hire into the car. Slippery surface flag being shown there by the marshal, but up towards the line now goes Fred Shepherd, goes by, the gap up to 1.2 seconds. Fred has done a really good job in this to set the fastest lap thus far. Everybody else getting themselves ready in the pit lane, ready for that 2nd stint. So the window's going to be open imminently. And there'll be some nervous faces down in the pits. Just as you start to watch, you counting the laps down, you get a message from the team saying, right, they're going to be in this lap or next lap, whatever their strategy may be. And you always have your nervous energy just before you're getting out into the car. And there is still Jack Young keeping at bay Nicolas Manassion, a Camaro, which is a recreation of the Camaro that James Hunt used to win the Tour of Britain in 1973, which was part rally, part race. And as they come now through forward water up towards St Mary's. Get past the Pheasant, which has just positioned itself on the inside of the road for a good view. And now down towards St Mary's, BMW crawling all over the back of the Chevrolet. Where does the move come? Or indeed, is it going to be on the pit stops? And then you get the second drivers into the cars. Well, let's see. Through the right, Nicola Manassian will give way to Nick Padmore. Jack Young will give way to Gordon Shedden. I mean, there are going to be some star drivers in the second part of this race.
It's going to be some real star drivers, and even though you know you're coming in a couple of laps' time, you still want to be the person that's managed to make those last few places before you hand over to your teammates and let them carry on.
Absolutely right. Tom Christensen sideways. Now that lead gap to the eye looks a little bit less. I suspect the timing screen will prove me wrong. Yeah, it is up by 0.2 of a second. But actually, Mike Whittaker, to be fair to him, is staying in touch. They're dabbing on the brakes, and the cars drifting their way around Madrick. Go the top two. So there, number 17 leads the way. So the BOSS Mustang up front, Fred Shepherd to give way to Andre Lotterer. Behind Mike Whittaker's Ford Capri. Smaller engine car, but even so, staying in that lead group as they work their way now towards St Mary's.
And without wanting to sound like a broken record.
So here at Goodwood, we are approaching the pit stop window for the Gerry Marshall Trophy, and the race is being led by Fred Shepherd. There, Mike Whittaker chasing on behind, and in third and fourth together, you've now got Craig Davies just ahead there of Tom Christensen, and they are absolutely nose to tail as they swing their way out of Lavant. Then the run down towards Woodcote Corner, and is this going to be an opportunity for Tom Christensen to find a way through? They are tied together, those two, and look at the gap that the leading quartet have pulled over everybody else. There is David Clarke, fifth, and he's in splendid isolation as well, because he's not with anybody and nobody is on the back of him. So Tom Ingram, he's at the moment rather self-isolating, but look at this fight.
He is, and Tom Christensen down the inside into this last section here. What a recovery. He's set purple sector in that first lap, so a fastest lap for him on that previous lap as well. So despite me saying times seem to be dropping off, Tom Christensen seems to be able to keep putting the lap times in.
So this is a car, in a sense, doing the opposite of most. You put the really quick driver in first and see how far up the order he can get. Now, the pit window is open. How many have ventured in thus far? Mainly those really from the rear of the order. Let's just see if the BMW dives in. No, nor does the Richard Mines Capri behind, because that was another car that looks like would be struggling earlier, like the BM. Quick early, then faded, now regrouping. Right, down into the pit lane. This is Sam Hancock, who is on board number 1 Triumph Dolomite Sprint, the sort of car that Andy Rouse won the British Saloon Car Championship with in 1975. Right, back to our battle here. So Jack Young against Nicola Manassian against Richard Mines, and a very sideways Capri, that is. Richard Mines here, Tom, crawling all over the back of the opposition. Away goes Adam Morgan in the blue and white Capri, and all of a sudden Manassian is on the attack again.
And that's a brave move down the inside. He looks to be really attacking this now, and he seems to be getting into a bit of a rhythm now with making these recovery drives back through. He seems to be comfortable with the car moving around underneath him at this stage.
It does indeed. It's fascinating though to see the way that some cars have been quick, faded, then fight back. But it's going to be the last hurrah for many of these drivers. Only a lap or two really before they come in. The leader is in then, so Fred Shepherd has pitted, and there it is. Also you'll see Malcolm Harrison to give way to Patrick Watts, but the lead car in. So now Mike Whittaker has effectively a qualifying lap, doesn't he? He's got to push like crazy and try and help Mike Jordan for the second stint.
And that first lap out the pits feels like the quickest lap you're ever going to do. You want to try and recover every 1/10 of a second you feel like you could lose. So it's always a real moment that you're still trying to get comfortable in the car. You're still adjusting your belts, but at the same time, you're trying to get on that lap as quick as possible. We can see a little bit of a trouble with the belts there, just trying to open those up. But as we said, it's 2 minutes for this pit stop. You don't want to be any second under that, because the last thing you want to do is pick up a penalty. And it's such a fine line between trying to keep a real bit of patience and get it done as quick as possible.
Now, one of the reasons it's a fairly long pit window is because it's a pretty crowded pit lane, and you can see now it's the ultimate car park, isn't it, with people coming in. You've got also Guy Smith in the back of that shot taking over the white Capri, Jonathan White, Le Mans winner Guy Smith. So 2 minutes. It also means it can be a nice safe pit stop, because if it's got to be done as quick as possible, things can go wrong, and with cars and people in a small pit lane, it does get a bit leery. So the safety element is there. Right, so that is Craig Davis giving way to Jason Plato.
This is going to be exciting to see, isn't it? Seeing Jason hustling this car, seeing how many places he can try and recover going forwards now. This is going to be great to watch.
It's odd to think that it's his first race of the year as well.
Isn't it crazy to say that about Jason Plato?
Absolutely.
You saying about the pit stops, it's a great time for the car to try and recover as well, and just allow all the tyre pressures to settle, the brakes to cool, everything just to take a little bit of a breather.
So hands devices having to be factored in as you get the belt sorted out for some of the drivers here. Now there is the Anthony Reid Trans-Dolomite Sprint going through shot. Nick Padmore, Goodwood Motor Circuit lap record holder, has now been installed into the UFO Jeans BMW. Down the pit lane goes Andre Lotterer. So Formula E racer, Le Mans winner, single-seater star, out he goes. And now you've got to go as fast as you can and remember what the car is like, and also find out what the track conditions are like.
And factor in for cars already on their fast lap and try to work out where they're going to fall in, because you don't know if they're in class, you don't know if they're a lap behind because they haven't yet to stop. So you just visor down and push. Get as many laps in as you can in this short space of time.
So now we have the shuffle of the order between those that have stopped and those that have not stopped. And of the non-stoppers, Mike Whittaker leads, but he's being caught by Tom Christensen. That is David Clarke's Chevrolet Camaro, which has given way now to Manuel Pirot. Behind is Nick Padmore, who's taken over from Nicolas Menassian. So the second part of this race is going to get very busy indeed. Rob Huff there takes over from Richard Mines. Now, Huffy is another Goodwood star, and he will be absolutely flat chat in that car.
And you can see he's already straight out the pits. He's already finding the limit of the car. He's already trying to get as much speed of that out as he goes into St Mary's. And you can see the whole demeanour, the whole attitude of the car looks really, really aggressive. Huffy's going to be one to watch as he comes through now.
So, recent Swedish touring car champion to add to his CV of world touring car successes, and accelerating then. He and Richard Mines share a number of cars together, make a very good partnership. And this is the lead battle. Now, these two have yet to stop. So, Mike Whittaker with a tail-wagging Ford Capri, and Tom Christensen with a wheel on the dirt. Brilliant battle.
He's pushing hard, isn't he, Tom Christensen? Again, another purple sector in that sector one. He's, again, another fastest lap on that previous lap. He seems to be able to get the very most out of this car, even late on into the stint. But are we going to see now the power of that car be able to drag him past him as we come up to the Woodcut section? Yes, simple as that.
Through he goes then. So the Chevrolet Camaro booms past into the lead. But Mike Jordan set to take over that Capri, experienced saloon car racer himself. Mike almost going back to his roots in this. He started off in classic saloon car racing in a Morris Minor, then went to Formula Ford, worked his way up to international GT level, and is of course now back as a very successful historic racer. Both of them stay out for another lap, but in a straight line there. You can see the extra horsepower the Chevrolet has.
He just has the grunt to be able to pull a gap as soon as he's out the corner, but you would leave Tom out now as soon as possible with the pace that he's able to produce, and he seems to be getting quicker and quicker and quicker. You try and eat that stint out as long as possible.
Absolutely right, and I think that's what Jack Tetley has in mind. This car owned by Grant Reed. And look, in and amongst the traffic now, they've just put a lap on the Ludovic Lindsay. Now Charlie March, Ford Capri. There it is in the Stuart Graham colours. That car was much corrupted into thunder saloons back in the mid-1980s, but it's been put back into its original form. And Mike Whittaker, he's a joy to watch in that car as he drifts the car through. Back tyre smoke ahead. I thought that was the leader. It's not. It was the Vauxhall that's gone off the road. Gregor Marshall and Matt Neal's car. And has that made a pit stop? It has. So that was Matt getting it wrong, I fear.
Ooh, that's not a nice first lap. That definitely never fills you with too much confidence when you have a little bit of an off on your outlap, that's for sure.
And not, of course, that you're going to mention any of this to your rivals next week.
I would speak of no such thing.
No, of course, I know. You're such a nice chap, Tim. Right, we've got a new leader in Tom Christensen, and he's trying to get away from Mike Whittaker. So there's the Chevrolet, there's the Ford Capri, and as the headlights pierce the gloom, pierce the dusk, now, how much longer before the Great Dane comes for the pit lane? Of course, the same is true of Mike Whittaker. He's the owner, but Mike Jordan very quick as well. So how long before you bring the red Capri into the pit lane? They're both coming. No, the Camaro is in, but Mike Whittaker stays out for another lap.
This is going to be interesting to see then how this pit stop goes. And we're going to be interested to see when we throw Mike Jordan in this car, see the pace that he can pull out of this, and see if that can offset the speed that Tom Christensen's been able to pull out of that car that we've seen so far. But again, he seems to keep doing these fast laps, and it's very impressive to be able to see that this long into a stint with the tyres, brakes, everything, as we can see.
Oh, yeah.
See those brakes glowing red there.
Now that is Andre Lotterer, isn't it? He's in his second stint. The second stint of the race, and the car having been given a real workover earlier on by Fred Shepherd, son of Bill Shepherd, who builds and prepares these cars. So now we're going to start to see what an Andre Lotterer lap time is like. He goes through, and Andre Lotterer's lap is a 29.5, a 28.2 is the best of anybody, set by Tom Christensen. So again, you have this jumbled order. What we need to see now is where the best of the pit stoppers will slot into place. That's Adam Morgan, another of your BTCC rivals in the Capri.
I don't know from talking to Adam earlier, he loves this event. He absolutely loves it. He's jumping in all sorts of cars over here and really, really enjoys it. So it's going to be interesting to see how Adam can pull that car further forwards and up the pack.
Now, Mike Whittaker staying out. He's got to come in soon, otherwise the window will be at its end. So is it this time? Let us see. He's not giving Mike Jordan much time behind the wheel here. Out of the chicane comes Mike Whittaker, and he's going to do another lap, is he? He is. So he's getting his money's worth.
Mike's going to be chomping at the bit. He's going to be sat in the pit lane going, when are you going to come in? When are you going to let me have a play?
It's like Mike Whittaker has been glued into the car. The danger, of course, is that if his lap times aren't as good as others and he gets all sideways at Madgwick, then it could cost them in the second stint. But we've had the Tom Christensen, now Jack Tetley Camaro in. So this car takes over the race lead once more. But there are very few that haven't stopped. The BMW shown as not having stopped, but it did. I'm sure I saw it in the pit lane. Nick Padmore at the wheel of that car now. So there is Guy Smith in the Ford Capri, Jonathan White, the Le Mans winner for Bentley. That's Patrick Watts, who was a one-make star before he went into the BTCC. And BMW versus Ford, that is Nick Padmore versus now Tom Blomqvist, who's taken over from his dad Stig. And he goes through on the inside, so Tom Blomqvist making a good move there, gaining a position ahead of the BM.
And don't we just love this event? We have such diversity from the drivers. We can see people jumping out of a Formula E car into a Mustang, from DTM into all sorts of stuff. So it's great to see that we've got such great diversity from the drivers to be able to switch from some real different kind of cars and get the very most out of them in such a short space of time.
And have a look at one of the great enthusiasts of Goodwood. Emanuele Pirro has done the fastest lap of the race, and in finally comes Mike Whittaker. So if Mike Jordan hasn't given up on this and gone for a lie down, he will be able to take over the car. There he is.
I was just going to say, I hope he's ready, and I hope he's not got a cup of tea sat by, because he thought he wasn't going to have to do anything.
I love Mike's historic crash helmet with the goggles painted on the top. He does this properly, doesn't he?
And it still doesn't look like Mike wants to get out. He wants to sit in it even when it stood still, look.
Right, there you go, Mike. You can have a go now. Right, let's see the car that Tom Christensen there has handed over to Jack Tetley, come out of the chicane. There, number 17, is Andre Lotterer. So this is about to get the race lead, I suspect, away from Jack Tetley up the road. Right, MJ is strapped in. This was a car that in period had huge success in the hands of Gordon Spice. And he never won the outright championship because that was being won by the classes, but up front Gordon was winning plenty of races. Right, there is Jack Tetley going through, being chased by Andre Lotterer. So this is going to become our lead fight, isn't it?
And it's going to be a tasty battle, as you see the back marker there just waving them up the inside. That's really helpful. It's always nice to know exactly where the back markers want you to be, where you want you to be positioned. But we can see that Mike Jordan finally in the car.
That back marker, by the way, was one Matt Neal, incidentally.
Whoops.
So, being a gentleman, as of course Matt is, just ask Josh Cook from a week ago at Croft. Out of Lavin Corner comes then number 17. This is Andre Lotterer. And the race lead beckons, although Jack Tetley trying to get up to speed as rapidly as he can there in this Grant Reid-owned Chevrolet. But where is Mike Jordan going to blend back into all of this? That's the next question. They've also got the back markers to contend with, of course, and the back markers are now in unfamiliar cars. If these are the pros replacing the owners, they won't necessarily know the car intricately. Right, away goes Mike Jordan. This car is still going to be in the hunt, isn't it?
And it's going to be so tight as they come out the pits now. Who's it going to be? I think you'd say the Christensen car has got the momentum up the straight. Yep, easy peasy.
Right, so third place will be Mike Jordan for now, but let us see where that car is going to be at the end of the next 15 minutes, because Mike Jordan is going to take the battle to everybody here. Comes out of Madgwick, hustling on. There is the race leader then. It is Jack Tetley up front. Great race this, the Gerry Marshall Trophy here at Goodwood SpeedWeek, and the action will continue after the break. So, action here at Goodwood with the race-leading car there now being Jack Tetley, being chased by number 17, Andre Lotterer, being chased by Capri number 8 in the hands of Mike Jordan. So, there's an awful lot going on in this race, Tom.
There absolutely is, and again, I know I keep picking up on it. Such beautiful scenes now as we can start to see the light dropping. The lights are really starting to pop on the car. We can start to see the cars really coming alive, and you'll see as they're braking into this final section, brakes glowing red under the falling sun.
So down towards Woodcote they come, and see with the brakes glowing again the car of Andre Lotterer. Now you were getting really concerned about that many minutes ago.
I was, yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see, because there can't be that much cooling getting to them, because you can still see them well after the corner, still a really deep orange, so there's going to be a huge amount of heat in there, and I hope he's not going to be getting too worried about that as he's getting into the slower corners.
But Jack Tetley has got a problem there as he comes up towards the timing line. That car going a little bit slower, so it's not Jack Tetley's pace, I don't think. I think that is the car with an issue, so Mike Jordan all of a sudden right back onto his tail. So, sideways, Mike Jordan up the inside there. Has the Camaro picked up pace again? It just about has. Mike Jordan's not breezing past. No, can't do it. So, was that a misgear? What do you think?
I don't know, but I tell you what, full respect to Mike Jordan for being able to get straight out the pits, straight onto the pace, and get pushing on as quick as possible, because he's really starting to rescue this race now.
He is indeed, as they get through the traffic. The Mini on the inside there, just dispensed with. That was Colin Turkington, who suddenly discovered that there was this battleship alongside him.
Chalk and cheese, look at the two differences in sizes between those cars. I bet Colin could have felt the car near him rather than see him in the mirrors. But is that Mike just getting a bit of an undercut? He's had to bleed out the power there as the door just gets shut in his face. I don't think he's going to quite have the pace to get past him down into Woodcote this lap.
But it's through the corners, isn't it, where the Capri has the advantage over the grunt and go Chevrolet Camaro, which of course at the end of the lap straight will have to throw out the anchor a bit sooner than will the Ford Capri. So is this going to be a chance for Mike Jordan to catch back up again, balancing the car against the throttle there, drifts it through, doesn't actually close the gap too much. So bear in mind that a lap ago that Chevrolet looked to be really struggling. Now it's stabilised again, and actually come the end of the lap it's advantage Chevrolet once more.
And I wonder if he's just being able to see exactly where Mike's quicker than him and start to just slow the car up a little bit more at the apex, get on the power a little bit earlier, and work out his strengths and Mike's weaknesses in this car.
So the race order is Andre Lotterer leading, and this is the fight for second place. So you've got Jack Tetley ahead of Mike Jordan as the two of them run now up towards the Ford Water right and then on towards St Mary's. There in fourth place is Jason Plato. He's not rusty, is he?
He's absolutely not rusty. Again, full credit to him. He's been able to jump into this car and be straight on the pace at a very, very strong pace as well. So full credit to Jason. He's doing a very, very good job.
It's his kind of car, isn't it? It's one you can really hustle along. It's one that's got character. Mike Jordan then in the Capri chases after Jack Tetley, who in fairness is doing a very good job here. He's that time holding up against the opposition, even though Andre Lotterer is escaping up the road.
I'm starting to see purple sectors coming up on the timing screens again now. Is that Emmanuel Pirot starting to make a little bit of progress now with a very, very strong sector one? So he's definitely on the push to try and recover something out of this race.
Yeah, Emmanuel is chasing after Jason Plato, isn't he? And then Rob Huff is 6th, Gordon Shedden is 7th, Tom Blomqvist is 8th, Nick Padmore is 9th, and in 10th place it is Dario Franchitti. How's that for a roll call?
That is a hell of a name call, is it not?
Right, for second place then, here comes the Camaro Capri fight. Chevrolet versus Ford, Jack Tetley versus Mike Jordan. Emmanuel Pirot, as Tom Ingram rightly says, has lit up the timing screen. He'd already done the fastest lap of the race. He ain't given up yet as the car's now powered down to the right-hander of Madgwick. 21 laps are in the book. What have we got left? Just under 11 minutes of the race. And the fastest lap improved upon by Emmanuel Pirot. So that lap has been the best of the race. That means that if you look in the background, you'll see the gap is coming down between Plato and Pirro. It was 3 seconds, but it is going to be even less than that as the cars now work their way into St Mary's. There, though, is the race leader. Andre Lotterer just has to preserve that gap.
And really now it's about looking after the car. He'll see in his mirror. He's got a nice gap.
So Andre Lotterer leads as we work here, lap 22. The Gerry Marshall Trophy is about to enter its last 10 minutes. This is the race leader, Andre Lotterer, up front in the BOSS Mustang. And behind it is Jack Tetley, just being able to fend off the challenger Mike Jordan, as with lots of tyre squeal and curb hopping, Andre Lotterer flings the car through Woodcote. Now, we did have a bit of a sort out in order to put Lotterer into the lead, and it was here out of the chicane. Jack Tetley's Chevrolet suddenly seemed to slow right down. That was enough to release Andre Lotterer, and it brought Mike Jordan back into the mix. But whatever the problem was, might have been a misgear for the Chevrolet Camaro. It has picked up its pace, and it is there in second place. So 9.5 minutes and counting. David Anderson and Tom Ingram trackside for the Gerry Marshall Trophy. And now, Tom, Andre Lotterer looks to have this all under control, but still we've got these orange brakes glowing when he applies the pressure to them.
And you can still see them still orange as he's halfway down the straight, even through full water. So there's still plenty of heat in that. And despite me saying now, he's just got to kind of get it home. He'll have an eye on his mirror. He's pushing, and he still looks to be getting some fast laps in.
Number 1 Dolomite Sprint of Sam Hancock goes a lap down against Mike Jordan. So Mike Jordan is in third place in the Mike Whittaker car. Jason Plato is fourth behind. And Emanuele Pirro has done the best lap of the race, and he's fifth. So it's all starting to concertina for second, third, fourth and fifth. Whereas Andre Lotterer, as long as the brakes stand up to all the punishment here, he's getting away. Look back from the Dolomite Sprint. Sam Hancock, with a 2-litre engine, he's flat out virtually all the way round.
He absolutely is. You can hear that engine screaming for mercy as it's coming out of the slower sections now. But look at the speed difference between these two cars now.
That was Jason Plato charging past. Dolomite Sprint probably wobbles with the draft that the Mustang creates, but look how close Plato is getting to Jordan, and Pirro is getting closer to the pair of them. So this is developing really nicely with 8 minutes to go. There's Andre Lotterer. That's the race leader. Look back. You see the gap? Then it's second, coming out of the chicane. Then third, then fourth, then fifth. So that's the battle pack that is developing for second, third, fourth and fifth. Now in sixth place should be Rob Huff in Richard Mine's Ford Capri. There it is, coming out of the chicane. In seventh place, it will be Gordon Shedden in the next of the Chevrolet Camaros, but that is a long way back, not yet even in view, because we've got more of the traffic still to come by. There it is now. So that's Gordon Shedden, the second of those pairs of headlights. Then it is the Camaro coming over the line. So that takes you to seventh place. Eighth, the Blomqvists. Ninth, Nick Padmore's BMW. 10th is another of the Camaros, that's of Dario Franchitti. Right, the lead gap is 8.8 seconds. Andre Lotterer has got this one in the bag, hasn't he?
I'm not saying anything at this point. I don't want to put my foot. It's 7 minutes left. Anything can still happen. We can still see those brakes are nice and hot, but that Jordan, Plato, Pirro battle is going to start to really hot up now.
And here it is. This is Pirro on Plato. So Emanuele lines up down Lavant Straight. Can't get the Camaro alongside the older BOSS Mustang. Even indicates that he's going to go to the right. He's having a look on the inside line there. There's just about the room. Brakes as late as he can. Gets the job done and covers off the inside line. So Jason Plato can't nip back up on the inside line. So Emanuele Pirro, the fastest lap he has already set. Now he's up into fourth position. Next target, Mike Jordan.
And he's going about it the right way, isn't he? Really fast laps. He's being able to deal with the traffic really, really efficiently. As soon as he's coming up behind someone, he's able just to get shot of them straight away and start to close that gap down.
Now the lead gap has come down a little, but I think that's more Andre Lotterer being cautious than needing to get concerned about the pace of the car against Jack Tetley in second spot. But this now is the fight for third place, and Emanuele Pirro in the Chevrolet Camaro period car, pole for the 1980 Spa 24 Hours on the back of the 1980 Ford Capri. He's right there and looking for a way by. As far as the race leader is concerned, there's traffic up the road, but is it going to be on the run down to Woodcote where Pirro makes the move? Because that's where theoretically, the Camaro should be stronger.
And we saw that on the last lap against Jason Plato. That was where his car was particularly strong. He's coming out of this section now. We're going to see him start to get a nice second apex now, and he's going to start to open the power up, and fingers crossed he's going to be able to close that gap. But Mike Jordan isn't going to want to let this place up lightly. It is still for third place, the final place on the podium, but it looks like he's got the job done easily and well ahead of time before he now starts to come down towards Woodcote. So a nice easy move there.
So great battle between the two, and it's now advantage Pirro, so he's got himself up into third position. Now, Tom Christensen did a great early stint. Let's hear from the Dane. He's with Tom Clarkson in the pits.
Yes, I've got him with me now. Tom Christensen, what an opening stint! Talk us through it!
Well, a good start, but this morning I had some issues with the gearbox, which was not suiting me well. So I had some issues, dropped right back, was even on the grass, and I was down in 22nd, but the car is working very good, except I can't use third gear. So I was using second as a chicane and fourth everywhere else. So I put fourth here and I went to fourth everywhere else. It seems to be good for the tires, but obviously the revs were very low at times, but that's how Jack is struggling as well. He don't have the third gear.
Okay, well, it's going to be a cracking end to the race. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, thanks.
So good to hear from Tom Christensen, and he is witnessing the car in second place. So Tom Christensen now having given way to Jack Tetley. 8.9 seconds is the lead gap, and then in third spot now it is Emanuele Pirro. There he is. Now what can Pirro do about Jack Tetley? That gap is 1.5 seconds. That is going to be another change. Look as they come down to Woodcote. So Emanuele Pirro, his brakes are going as well, but there's going to be another change here before the end, isn't there? Because Pirro is right up there with the second place Camaro now.
You wouldn't bet against it with the pace he's had in this second half of the race. It's got to be done very, very quickly. You'd argue that, and he's already looking to be straight on the attack, even with an indicator. He pulls past, very gentlemanly, and comes past.
Easy peasy, wasn't it there? So through into second spot goes Emanuele Pirro, and he can't surely in the remaining 3 minutes do anything about Andre Lotterer. He might be able to bring down the gap, but he's not going to be able to catch and pass unless Lotterer has a problem. But as far as the other situations are concerned, Mike Jordan versus Jason Plato, 4th and 5th could be one to watch, couldn't it, with the Capri and the Camaro. So look back, there they are. There is Mike Jordan, and Jason Plato is closing that gap down all the time. Pirro's last lap, by the way, was another best as Mike Jordan beautifully drifts through St Mary's.
Stunning, and it's so great to see these cars driven so on the edge all the way through every single corner we get to. But you're absolutely right, David, this is going to be a very interesting battle in the last just under 2.75 minutes left of the race now. Can Jason get the attack done on Mike Jordan? Let's wait and see.
So what have we got? 2.5 minutes and counting as Emanuele Pirro blasts past the Austin Metro. That predates even MG Metros that didn't appear in the championship until 83. But down towards Woodcote they come. Mike Jordan versus Jason Plato. Here they come. Jason will be very, very keen to get past that Capri if he can. He's going to get 2 more laps out of this race, I reckon, as they come now through the chicane. There's a whole galaxy of traffic, though, looming up the road, isn't there? Including there the Rover of... now Pat Blakeney-Edwards, number 16 Rover, the surviving Patrick Motorsport liveried car. So the leader goes by. Actually, the gap is coming down, not by much, but it's gone from over 8 seconds to just under 7. So it's down a bit, but still think that's Lotterer just looking after the equipment.
You'd argue, and like you say, just under 2 minutes to go, 1 minute 45 seconds left of the race now. Just under 2 seconds he's closed in that last lap. So he's definitely going to be on the attack, but I think even he'll know, with a man of his experience, he'll know that closing that gap down with such a short space of time is going to be difficult, but never say never. Anything can happen in this race. We've seen that.
So Andre Lotterer is the man in charge. He will squeeze 1 more lap out of this race. And right now, this is all about looking after the machinery, isn't it? Because from 5th on the grid, a really good first stint put into that car by Fred Shepherd. Through the traffic comes Emanuele Pirro, who is still hustling on. He is fractionally slower than the leader in the first sector, but you can put that down to traffic, as there Andre Lotterer out on his own. should be able to have a pretty easy last lap here with no traffic around him. Pirro has got to try and swap the back markers aside, but they're still with those brakes glowing red hot. They're just about going to stand up to the treatment, aren't they?
I think they are, and it's going to be really interesting to see this Jordan-Plato battle coming into its own in the last lap of the race or so. So let's keep an eye on that and see what goes on just back there as well.
45 seconds on the clock. The flag might go early rather than do an extra lap. Let's see, it does. The checkered flag is out then, so an early checkered flag just because the light is going. So who is going to be second? It is Emanuele Pirro bringing the car home. Matt Neal goes through ahead of Patrick Watts, and a virtual dead heat for third. And I reckon Jason Plato might have just done that on the line, and he did by 1/10 of a second. That was for fourth place. So Tom Christensen and Jack Tetley third, and Jason Plato gets ahead of Mike Jordan by 1/10.
45-minute race split by 1/10 of a second. How crazy is that?
Insane, isn't it? And then in sixth place, Richard Meyer.